Hey guys, it's Xander here, and we're back looking at Standard. This is a Judith aggro deck that I've put together for you guys, featuring a lot of the new cards from Ravnica Allegiance. I'm going to touch over the main board here, talk about the sideboard, interactions between, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. So to start off the lineup, we're going to talk about the namesake of the deck, and the reason we are doing this deck at all, and that's Judith the Scourge Diva. So Judith is for 3, 1 a black and a red. She's a 2/2 legendary human shaman. With other creatures you control get +1/+0, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith the Scourge Diva deals 1 damage to any target. Obviously, it's an aristocrat style kind of deck, just incremental amounts of damage to their face or being able to kill their creatures. She's an insane card. Because we want that to happen as often as possible, we are running her in a 4 of. It's not something that you would usually do with a legendary creature, but because that's pretty much our whole game plan, definitely want to run a 4 of. To help out with our game plan, we need some draw cards, so we've got that in the form of Midnight Reaper, which is for 3, 2, and a black. It's a 3/2 zombie knight. With whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you, and you draw a card. Obviously, the incremental damage to us isn't great, but us being able to ping for damage as well as draw cards every time we have something die, value ends up building up and we end up kind of storming out of control. Really, really good card in this deck. A little bit more on the draw card side, but it's kind of more situational, is the 4 copies of Rix Mardi Reveler. It's for 2, so 1 and a red, 2/2 human shaman. Spectacle 4, so if an opponent's lost life this turn, you can play it 4 instead of 2. So 2 a black and a red. But whenever it enters the battlefield, you discard a card and then draw a card. But if you played it for a spectacle cost, instead you discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. So if this is the last card we have in our hand, and then we ping our opponent for some damage, being able to just draw 3 cards for 4 cost, insanely good. The next card I want to talk about is an all-star in this deck. It's ramp, it's removal, and it's a sack outlet, which synergizes really well with just about everything in this deck. And that's the 4 copies of Priest of Forgotten Gods. So for 2, 1 and a black, it's a 1/2 human cleric. With tap, sacrifice 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2 life, and sacrifice a creature. You add 2 black and draw a card. Another way to draw cards, it adds 2 black so we can ramp into a lot of our black stuff. It sacks our creatures so that we can ping with Judith. It's pinging our opponent for a couple of life. And it's also got a lot of synergy with the recursion creatures that we have in this deck. Another sack outlet, and a bit more on the aggro side, we're running 4 copies of Fireblade Artist, which is for 2, so black and a red. It's a 2/2 human shaman with haste, so it can attack the turn it comes in. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a creature. It's a sack outlet. And when you do, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So even if we can't get past their creatures, the sack outlet's going to let us utilize the Midnight Reaper to draw more cards, Judith to ping for more damage, and we're going to get incremental damage out of the Fireblade Artist itself. But the turn after you play this, if you can ramp into, say, turn 1 Gutterbones, turn 2 Fireblade, turn 3 Judith, we're swinging in for a lot of damage at that point, and our opponent can't really do much about it. Another one of the new Spectacle cards, and the pseudo lightning bolt in the deck, we're running a 4 of Skewer the Critics, which is for 3, 2 and a red. At sorcery speed, it's got Spectacle 1, so if an opponent lost life this turn, you can play it for 1 red. Skewer the Critics deals 3 damage to any target, helps us kill planeswalkers, helps us ping damage to the face, kill creatures. You could be running lava coils in the main board. I've got them in the sideboard just as a piece to swap in, but great card nonetheless. The recursion creatures in the form of 4 reassembling skeletons. At a 2 cost, it's 1 and a black. It's a 1/1 skeleton warrior with pay 2, 1 and a black. Return reassembling skeleton from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Just another creature that we can continue to sacrifice or chump block for days, getting constant value out of Priest of Forgotten Gods, the Fireblade, the Midnight, and Judith. The recursion line's definitely where we want to be going with this deck. But it's not just finishing with the reassembling skeleton. We've also got a 4 of Gutterbones, which is at a 1 black, a 2/1 skeleton warrior. It enters the battlefield tapped, but it's also got pay 2, 1 and a black. Return Gutterbones from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn, and only if an opponent lost life this turn. With the pay 2 return, we can tap, sacrifice Gutterbones to the priest, ping them for 2. They sack a creature. We add 2 black and draw a card, and then we pay 2 to put Gutterbones straight back onto the battlefield, sacking him to something else later on. It's just crazy. To finish off the 1-drops, we're also running a 4 of Footlight Fiend, which is for 1 hybrid, so black or red. It's a 1/1 devil with when it dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Just a dirt cheap creature that we don't care if it dies because it's going to ping them in the face anyway. A lot of the times we'll have a Judith out, and this guy will be swinging in as a 2/1 for 1. Ends up being great stats. Being able to sacrifice it to any one of our sack outlets and just ping for damage anyway. If it's Judith, we're pinging for 2 damage, just at a 1 cost. Great synergy. Even better on the synergy side, and to round out the creatures, we're running a 4 of Fanatical Firebrand, which is for 1 red. It's a 1/1 Goblin Pirate with haste, so it can attack the turn it comes in. And it's got tap, sacrifice it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Play this, tap, sack, ping a creature, Judith triggers, ping them in the face. It's just great. Not running many spells deliberately. We want to be trying to do the combo value plan off the creature's abilities more than anything. Touching on the land base here, we're running a 4 of Dragon Skull Summit, which comes in tapped unless you control a swamp or mountain, tap for black or red. 4 of Blood Crypt, which comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. It's a swamp or mountain, so you can tap for black or red. 8 swamps and 4 mountains. But you could be running stuff like Skewer the Critics, more pseudo draw card. Experimental Frenzy, really likes the fuse on pretty much any aggro deck that wants it in there. Theater of Horrors is another card that's very similar. All cards to get more value out of the top of the deck. Touching on the sideboard here, this is where we're running a lot more of the spells, so it can be a bit more reactive. So we're running a 3 of Duress for the control matchups. So it's for 1 black at sorcery speed. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. A lot of our problems come in the form of stuff like Shalai. So we wanted to have an answer for that. So we're running a 4 of Lava Coil, which is for 2. So 1 and a red. At sorcery speed, you deal 4 damage to target creature. And if it would die this turn, you exile it instead. Another thing that we've got in here to kind of answer stuff that would make them hexproof or other serious threats would be the 3 copies of Drill Bit, which is for 3, so 2 and a black. At sorcery speed, again this is Spectacle for 1, but this time 1 black. Target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-land card from it, and that player discards that card. So it's a not quite as good version of Thoughtseize, which sees a lot of play in Modern, but being able to hit anything that's non-land at a Spectacle cost of 1, insanely good. And it's not going to be very likely that we can't deal damage to our opponent to be able to play this for 1. So it's very rarely you're going to be playing this at a 3 cost. To answer Planeswalkers, we're running 3 copies of Sorcerer's Spyglass, which is a 2-cost artifact. And as Sorcerer's Spyglass enters the battlefield, you look at a target opponent's hand, then choose a card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So it just completely shuts down Planeswalkers. Golgari's running Vraska. People are playing Teferi. Dovin's turning up in token decks. It's just crazy. So a just straight up answer for Planeswalkers is something that everybody needs to be running in their sideboards, and this is the perfect thing for it. A little bit more on the utility side, and to finish off the sideboard, we're running 2 copies of Direfleet Daredevil, which is for 2, so 1 and a red. It's a 2/1 human pirate with first strike, and when Direfleet Daredevil enters the battlefield, you exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast that card this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were any color, cast that spell. If the card will be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. So being able to play removal or draw card or anything you want instant and sorcery out of your opponent's graveyard, it's just something that a lot of the times is more fun than good, but it's just a great card. Decks very similar to this have been coming up with some really good results on Magic the Gathering Online, making it into the top 8 or coming out with the top spot in a couple of different tournaments. So the deck's legit. This being my version of it, it's just the way I like to play the deck. You can tweak it any way you want, but the deck's a hell of a lot of fun. It's super low to the ground. It's got a lot of combo. Haste creatures, draw cards, sack outlets. If that's the kind of thing you're into, I strongly suggest this deck. It's great. And that is Judith Aggro in Standard. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/SandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.